Hi guys, it is Thursday and this is the video lesson for those of you who are learning virtually today. So to prepare for today's lesson, I want you to open up a tab for M2L10. Also open up a tab for the Odyssey. And happy Squirrel Appreciation Day for those of you who love squirrels. So go ahead and pause the video and open those two documents and then push play when you have those ready. All right, we're going to continue with verbs, and today we're going to look at some helping verbs also. So it's going to be a little more challenging than yesterday. Number 1 says, a monster may be living in a deep lake in Scotland. So the verb, you actually have a verb phrase here, may be living. The number 2, it says, there it is. The number 2 says, the creature is called the Loch Ness Monster. Your verb, you actually have a verb phrase here, is called. Number 3, it says carvings of an unknown animal have been found. The verb phrase here is have been found. All 3 of those words are verbs. Number 4, were they made 1,500 years ago? The verb here is were. Number 5, no one knows for sure. The verb is knows. And number 6, the first modern sighting of the monster was reported in 1933. So the verb here is was reported. Number 7, the next year a photograph was taken of a large creature, but it is very fuzzy. The verb here is was taken. We also have another verb with is. Number 8, to this day, rumors of a monster or animal in the lake persist. The verb is persist. Today, your assignment, you will be doing the Ed puzzle on verbs and verb phrases. And so it'll be posted there on the classroom for you, but that will be your assignment to do after watching the video lesson. All right, so on M2L10, you're going to be filling out the Notice and Wonder chart. So as we examine the introduction, the first chapter, the war, you should fill out the Notice and Wonder chart as we go through the video. So what textual details in the war, so this is just in the first pages 8 through 15, what textual details intrigue readers about the Odyssey and orient them to the story? In other words, what details are given to kind of set up the story for you to understand what's going on? And also, what questions are created? So I want you to pause the video and add 2 things you noticed about the details and 2 things you wondered. If you can't come up with those, I'm going to be sharing some answers with you, and feel free to steal some of my answers. So pause the video and see if you can come up with 2 notices and 2 wonders. All right, so you can add some of these to your chart if you don't have to that you can come up with. But I noticed that Odysseus's Odyssey will be the 10 years fighting the anger of the raging sea while he's trying to get home. And I wonder, why does it take him 10 years? I also noticed that he seems like he has to give up a lot to stay true to his word to the Greek kings that promised to go and fight with the Spartans. His only child is just a baby. I wonder, what about his responsibility to his family? Does he feel that he needs to stay for them? I noticed that Odysseus tells his wife that she must choose another husband if he doesn't come back once Telemachus becomes a man. I also wonder, when he does get home after 10, he's going to be fighting for 10 years, and it takes him 10 years to get home. So I noticed he'll be gone for 20 years. I wonder, will everything be different when he gets home? I also noticed that the word fierce is repeated multiple times in these pages, especially on page 12, and I wonder why. I noticed that Odysseus keeps being described as the cleverest king in Greece. What does he do that gives him that reputation? I noticed that Penelope, she seems like a good wife, and I noticed that the Greeks end up winning the Trojan War by tricking their way into Troy. That picture tells me that. I also noticed that on page 13, 4 of the gods are singled out and described. We've got Zeus, Athena, Hermes, and Poseidon. And the others aren't really talked about. So I wonder, how will those 4 gods be important? I do notice that the gods from the beginning seem like they will be involved in the story. So if you didn't have 2 notices, 2 wonders, you can take any of those 2 or any of the many I just shared. All right, so you're going to be adding 1 notice and 1 wonder to go along with this question. So what details from the illustrations in the war intrigue the readers about the Odyssey and orient them to the story? What questions are created by these details? So I'm going to leave this screen and I'm going to pull up our book. I'm going to scroll back to the beginning. So first of all, with this picture, one thing that I notice on this picture, I noticed that Ithaca appears to be a wonderful place. It appears to be thriving. There are vibrant colors here. So I do notice that, but I wonder, why does he leave? He seems to have so much here. I wonder why he leaves. And as I continue to scroll, and it just kind of copies that page, I see this picture of them hugging, and I wonder, why would he leave his family, who he seems to really love? And when I look at this illustration, I wonder, how important is Odysseus in this war? Because we don't really hear much about him specifically and how he fought in the Trojan War. So I kind of wonder, like, where was his role? What was important about him? When I look at this picture, I see that there are 4 gods that have their pictures. We have Athena and Zeus and Poseidon. And so I wonder why their pictures, and Hermes, I wonder why their pictures are shown and not any of the other gods. So I'm kind of left with that question. So you can add any of the notices and wonders that I've shared with you. You can add them to your chart, but you need to have at least 1 thing you've noticed about the pictures in that section and 1 thing that you wonder. The next question is, what have you observed about the settings? So think about the settings in the story that we've read so far in pages 8 through 25. What are they like? What questions are created by their depictions? So I want you to pause the video and add 1 thing you notice about the setting and 1 thing you wonder. If you have a hard time coming up with one, I'll be sharing some answers that feel free to steal them. I noticed that the first setting, Ithaca, seems pretty lovely. I wonder, why is his responsibility to the other kings of Greece more important than his responsibility to his family and kingdom? I wonder that. I also noticed that the setting of the Trojan War, that picture shows it's pretty brutal. The war ends, it says on page 13, in a storm of blood and fire, and the city's burned to ruins. So I wonder, why would someone want to be a warrior and go into that? Another setting is on the beach near the city of Sycones. It appears like getting home to Ithaca is going to be pretty hard for the men at this point. I do notice that. I notice that when the storm hits, the setting is extremely dangerous. And I wonder, why are they having such bad luck? I noticed the land of the lotus eaters is even more dangerous. And so I wonder, are the gods trying to mess with them? And I wonder, why do the men encounter such strange and horrible obstacles already in our book? So we're going to add 1 more notice and wonder to what have you observed about Odysseus's men? What are they like? What questions do you have about them? So go ahead, pause the video, add 1 thing you notice, 1 thing you wonder about Odysseus's men. Not Odysseus, we're going to do him next, but what you notice about the men. If you couldn't come up with something, you can steal one of mine. I did notice that they don't seem like they're very disciplined. So I wonder, why are they making such bad choices? And they're supposed to be these great warriors, right? I do notice that they refuse to listen to Odysseus. So I wonder why. Why won't they listen to him? And why doesn't he have better control over his men? Those are some things that I wonder. I also noticed that Odysseus' men, they seem exhausted and terrified. And that's on page 18. They don't seem very courageous or honorable. And I wonder, do they want to get home to their wives and children? All right, so now you're going to add another notice and wonder on what you've noticed and observed about Odysseus himself. What's he like? And then what questions do you have about him? So pause the video and fill that out. One notice, one wonder. I noticed that he's blessed. He has a family, a kingdom that he loves. He has a strong sense of duty. And I noticed that he feels a duty to his men. I wonder why he's so different from them. I noticed that he learns from his past mistakes. And I wonder, will his men learn from their mistakes? Will he get home? I wonder that. I noticed that he takes stock of the situation more quickly than his men do. He notices something's not right quicker than his men do. So I wonder what keeps him from giving into temptation. I notice also he makes excellent decisions that saves the lives of his men. And I wonder, will this always protect him, this smartness that he has? So what you're going to do, once you have all of those filled out, your notice and wonders, you're going to turn that in. Every box should be filled out. So you can turn that in. If you're missing one, you might have to rewatch the video and see where you're messing up. But go ahead and turn that in and then do the Ed puzzle that's on verbs. And that is your assignment for today. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to your English teacher.